All right, everybody, welcome back to another session. We are going to be working with some copper leaf today. Oh my gosh, this stuff is, it's not easy to use. I'll just put it right out there before I even get started. If you pick up the leaf with your glass, if your glass is too hot, the the copper leaf will immediately oxidize after you pick it up. And that's always been the issue for me, is trying to get the copper rolled up on glass that is just barely hot, but still, okay to work. And then immediately coat it with clear. And I have just never been able to get to that point. And my glass, and even on this one, which I really enjoyed, this one after I made it, and I probably made 6 or 7 of these with different, kind of similar but different colors. Either way, they all ended up looking about the same. The foil either is going to be shiny and red, or it's going to be oxidized and kind of crumbly. So that's why I have that title, the Copper Leaf Crumble, because that's kind of what it does when you pick it up. Anyway, I'm going to start out here with this opal yellow, and I'm just going to build the bead up. And, I noticed that some of you guys were asking me about my past and were kind of interested. Maybe I thought I'd just start here while I get this bead going and ready for the copper foil. So after I roll this out, I'm going to add some copper green, which is an interesting color to use as well with the copper leaf, as well as this opal yellow. It's a good color to use. And black is interesting as well. So is white. But they all kind of have this similar look to the end, which is like this black, crumbly blue haze. So that's really all I've been able to do with this stuff. If you have had better luck with copper leaf, let me know, because I've been having a hard time trying to trap it before it oxidizes. Anyway, so my past. I grew up in Texas, if you did not know that. And it took me 27 years to get to Ohio. I'll talk about that a lot later. But Texas was good. It's just really hot there. And, I always kind of felt like I was an artist. And I won my very first art award in second grade, in Miss Hannah's second grade class. And that made me feel real good. But I was also very shy, very introverted, very depressed child for whatever reasons. And it's taken me a long time to come out of my shell. And sometimes I don't think I really have, even though I try to be extroverted. I'm really, I'm just the kind of person that likes to, hang out in the dungeon. Oh yes, this color here, I love the way I add it. I'm just kind of like haphazardly, kind of jaggedly adding the copper over this yellow. And I like the design. But I've always been interested in art, and I never was really sure what I wanted to do until I got into college. And I I graduated from high school in 91. And then I went to the University of Texas at Arlington. And that is where I fell in love with printmaking and metalworking, and was going to do something with that. And I had decided that maybe it would be a good idea to transfer to another college in Texas, down in Austin, and further pursue my career of printmaking, possibly. And at that point, my professor in metals, David Keynes, told me, he was like, Robin, you don't want to go. You don't want to go because they're going to start a glass program here. And I was like, oh, no way. And it just so happened that, like, when I was 18, I was watching a public TV, PBS, and there was this very short film in between shows that highlighted Dale Chihuly. And you guys, it blew me away. That is the first and really only time that I ever felt a presence hanging over me saying, you're going to be involved in glass, somehow. But that was a very important moment in my life. And so I pursued the glass. I stayed in Texas, or at Texas University, and I became, we had to build the hot shop, and I really had no idea what we were doing. Okay, I'm waiting. I got to get back to this. I'm waiting forever to roll this copper up, you guys, and watch what happens when I roll this up, and I am waiting. I'm afraid my bead's going to break. And like right here, like immediately right here, this is when you want to encase it immediately. Now, this is what happens if you don't encase it like right immediately. I'm going to go into an oxidizing flame slightly because that is supposed to take away the oxidation. Like I'm going into a reducing flame, and that's supposed to take away that black soot that you might get on the leaf. And then they, as I had been researching, a little bit more about the copper leaf, you want to immediately coat it in clear, like immediately. So I think for me, I have just been waiting too long to coat it in clear. And I did this on everyone. However, so if you get to this point and you're like struggling, like I am, it's the problem here is the clear or the glass does not want to stick to the oxidized copper. It wants to kind of just not stick to it. So when you're encasing this, you want to make sure that your glass is not only sticking to like the top edge of the bead, but you're also overlapping the other layer of clear so the glass has something to stick to. And then you will just do your best to encase this whole bead. And then you'll have that copper, what's left of the copper, it trapped underneath. And I will add a little bit more clear here after I have swiped all this on here. And it's weird because it tends to want to tear off. So I just end up kind of filling in where I need to and then rounding everything out. And it, of course it's going to take time, but just do your best if you're going to try this to completely encase every single tiny bit of copper foil that you can. Because if you don't, it will kind of tend to want to rise to the surface a little bit if it's a real thin bit of clear, or if it's slightly not trapped under clear, it will kind of rise to the surface and act, a little funny. You'll have a spot there. So anyway, everything is encased here, and I'm going to start with my butter knife and just start to shape everything up gently and get it back into a nice looking package before I move on. So yeah, going back to school. Anyway, so we built this hot shop, and I honestly had no idea what was going on. It was like, put this brick here, put this brick there, and all of a sudden I'm like, wow, we have a furnace. This is crazy. So, it was glass blowing on a large scale. And you guys, I just fell in love with it. I had the best time. I became my teacher's assistant, which was really helpful because I got more time in with the glass. And I went to my first glass conference at that time. And it was something else. I had a really great time in college. It was great. I made everlasting friends, and it was fun. So I learned a lot about glass there. And it was my first conference that I actually laid hands on some boro glass. I took a small workshop at the conference that was flameworking, like an introduction to boro flameworking. And that's the very first time I did flameworking, and it was in boro glass. And for me, it was like really hard glass. And I'm like, oh, this stuff is hard to use. I prefer a softer glass, like the hot shop. So yeah, that's where my focus was. And after that, this is kind of a funny story. After I left college, I just did not know what I was going to do. I needed to find somewhere to blow glass. Anyway, at a later conference, we had gone to Corning. It was a conference at Corning. And I got hooked up with this lady, this glassblower lady who lived in Alaska. Oh my gosh, you guys. So I lived in Alaska for a couple months during the summer, and I was working for this woman blowing glass, being her assistant. Oh, it was awful. It was like one of the worst experiences I think I'd ever had. This woman like treated me like her slave, and it was just, it was not good for me. It was really, really a horrible time, actually. And the only saving grace was the people I was staying with, and the fact that I did not have to stay under her roof. Anyway, so after a couple months, I was so stressed out that one of my back tooth impacted, and I was in just the worst pain and had to go see her dentist, and and then it was like basically I got to get out of here. So in comes my mom, and I take the next flight out. It was just a crazy time there, but I realized that I did not ever want to work for another glass artist in that capacity, like being their assistant. It just was not for me. Maybe it was just a really bad first experience, but it scarred me for life. Anyway, so I eventually, made it back to Texas and had to take my next step, which was graduate school. And it took me time to kind of figure out where I wanted to go to school. But I ended up in Bowling Green, Ohio. And that's a story for another day. Anyway, let's finish this bead up. I have encased it twice, rounded it out, and now I'm going to flatten it. And when I flatten it, what happens here is the leaf breaks apart. It crumbles. And it gives a bluish haze over everything, which I find very, very interesting. It's not my favorite look, but I admire it and I appreciate it. Anyway, here at the end, I am going to fire polish both sides. So when I do my fire polishing, I want to make sure that the whole bead doesn't start moving. So I'll fire polish one side starting from the bottom and working my way up to the top. And then I'll blow on it for a second. And then I'll fire polish the other side. And that will ensure that the whole bead doesn't start sinking and moving around. And I honestly thought this was like really boring. So I had to add a couple of just clear dots on both sides, just to give it a little bit more interest and to kind of magnify a few areas that are, that give you something interesting to look at. So I'm going to add these little dots here. I hope you enjoyed my story. Let me know. I know some of you are interested in my history, and I never really quite know what to say, but it is an interesting time to look back on, that's for sure. Some crazy stories. Maybe one of these days I'll get into them. But for now, I hope you enjoyed this demonstration with the copper foil, or the copper leaf. It's not the easiest stuff to use. Like I said, even using leaf, you just exhale and the copper leaf is, blown away, and I got to pick it up and put it back. It's just a but I know that you can, if you quickly cover it before it oxidizes, you can get a nice coppery red kind of shimmer. And that, again, is a demo for another day. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Please let me know what you think. And I'm just going to finish heating this up here. Right before I put it away, I like to give it a nice final heat just to make sure the dots are nice and low and everything is ready to go. All right, you guys, I'll see you next time in the dungeon.